Good evening. Welcome to the August 13th, 2018 Troy City Council meeting. We are pleased this evening to have Councilman Pennington lead us in the invocation. So if you would please rise for that and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and we thank you for the chance to gather in your name. We pray that you help us to be wise stewards today with this meeting and in all the meetings in the future. We pray that you guide us, protect us in everything we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Pennington. The Troy City Council meeting is now called to order. The roll call, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Slater?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Here.
Councilmember Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
Councilmember Pennington?
Here.
All present. First on the agenda are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have two this evening. C1 is a 2018 Safe Built scholarship presentation, and I'd like to call upon Community Affairs Director Cindy Stewart and Building Official Randy McClure to make the introductions.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
City Council. This is a very wonderful presentation. We're always excited to do this year. And the Youth Achievement Awards are intended to honor and recognize those youth that live in the city who have made a significant impact on the Troy community through volunteer work or other special deeds and actions, and who demonstrate exceptional leadership and career academic purpose. The City of Troy Safe Built contributes the funds for these awards. And this year's graduating senior awardee is Dominic Haight. He's a 2018 Athens High grad. He graduated with a 4.20 GPA. And in his 4 years at Athens, he successfully completed 9 AP classes, as well as 2 dual enrollment classes, Calc 3 and Linear Algebra, through Lawrence Tech, and a number of honors classes. In addition to his exceptional academics, Dominic was also an active member in extracurricular activities, including National Honor Society, Troy Athens Baseball. He was a camp counselor for Barnard's 5th grade camp, Spirit Week fundraising, and both the symphonic and concert bands playing the tenor sax. Dominic received numerous awards during his high school career, including summa cum laude, musician, scholar, athlete, academic all-state baseball, first division solo and ensemble, district and state levels, AP Spanish scholar student, National Merit Program commended student. He also volunteered for the Boys and Girls Club of Troy, the Troy Family Days Festival, and in the fall, Dominic plans to attend the University of Pittsburgh, majoring in finance and minoring in economics and Spanish. He finds time to work part-time as a chiropractic assistant at Back and Neck Chiropractic Wellness Center in Troy. Want to say a few words?
Holy cow.
Where does he have time?
Yeah, he's been busy.
Wow.
I'm impressed. Well, Mayor and council members, we're grateful for the privilege of being here this evening. It's a great day, and it's a great thing to contribute back into the community. It's a great opportunity for Safe Built to partner with the City of Troy in doing that. So we're grateful for that opportunity, and so here we have a check made out to University of Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you very much. Yep. I would just like to say thank you both to Safe Built and the City of Troy in general. It's definitely been a great place that I can call my hometown. Definitely going to brag about how great Troy is to my new friends in Pennsylvania. Special thank you to the Troy School District as well for giving me such a great opportunity and chance to continue with my studies in Pittsburgh. So thank you very much to the City of Troy, Safe Built, and just everyone in general. Thank you.
Introduce his family real quick.
Of course.
I brought my family with me here too. I have my dad, Dave, and my older and younger sister, Marissa, on the left, Natalie on the right. They're very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. On behalf of the City Council, it's always great to see our youth and what they've done for our community. Thank you so much for everything that you've done to support our community. Thank you. Next on the agenda, C2 is Economic Development Update. I'll call upon Glenn Lapin, our Economic Development Specialist, to give us an update. Good evening, Glenn.
Good evening. That's a tough act to follow there.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'd like to provide you with an update on economic development activities going on here in the city. And we are continuing to see low vacancy rates on the office side, which is good, as that graph shows. At the second quarter of 2018, the vacancy rate was about 15.2%. Compared to the 5-year average of 18.9%, and last year about 15.7%. For consistency purposes, all those numbers do not include the Kmart headquarters building, as that is off the market and not available at the present time for reuse. So we pulled those numbers out of that. As the vacancy rates decline, the rents typically will go up. So in the second quarter of 2018, about $19.68 per square foot for office rentals, compared to the 5-year average of $18.81, and last year about $19.16. Some of the activities that have been impacting these numbers in terms of the office market, HAP, the Health Alliance Plan, part of Henry Ford Health Systems, is preparing to move into the former United Shore building. United Shore has moved out to Pontiac, as many of you know, but United Shore, with their leaving, although they had about 2,100 employees, HAP is moving in and backfilling about 1,100 employees in about 180,000 square feet of space. That's not 100% of the building. It's a very significant portion of it, though, however, and expect to lease out the rest of that as well. So an excellent use for that building in an important corner here in Troy. MSX International has moved into Research Drive, of 150 employees, about 30,000 square feet. Conoco Minolta over at 340 East Big Beaver with 140 employees as well and about 15,000 square feet. Trian Solutions, one of the new tenants moving into 888 West Big Beaver. As that project gains traction in terms of being completed, in terms of the interior office renovations and the site work that's going on, Trian now has their name on the building, which is great. They're moving 67 employees into about 33,000 square feet of space. I'd like to point out that the Downtown Development Authority played an active role in this project to help transform from a single office use into mixed-use development on the site and to increase the density on this site as well. The DDA, through the Quality Development Initiative, provided support for the construction of the parking structure, which is located behind there. That parking structure enabled land to be freed up on the site. You are seeing that's where Shake Shack is, that's where Fidelity is. You see Yard House and Seasons 52 under construction right now. You're going to see additional retail going into the parking structure on the first floor and additional retail on the corner as well at Wilshire and Big Beaver. And the construction will be starting shortly on the residential complex as well. So an important tool to help increase density along Big Beaver, and this is the first example of the results of that. Uliance up in North Troy has moved in. We're in a 900 Tower Drive, about 65 employees. And Custom Home Health, another good tenant over at 888 West Big Beaver with an additional 38 employees. By the way, that's a drawing of the completed project when all done with the residential behind it for 888 West Big Beaver. So there are a lot of issues impacting office that we're keeping an eye on. You might have seen about the announcement that Chemical Bank plans to move its headquarters from Midland to downtown Detroit. Chemical Bank is the former Talmer Bank. Keeping an eye on this because they're moving 500 employees down to Detroit in a new 20-story tower that they are proposing over there. After talking to the company, the Troy presence will remain. It's an important market for them. The question is how many Troy jobs will be impacted by that move. We suspect there'll be some. I'm not sure at this stage how many, but we'll keep in touch with Chemical Bank to find out what kind of impact we'll have on that site. On the industrial side, very low vacancy rates. In the second quarter of 2018, about 2.6%, which is very low for industrial market. It means there's not much out there that's available. That compares to the 5-year average of 3.7%, and last year about 3%. Again, the rent's going up to $7.09 a square foot for the second quarter, compared to the 5-year average of $6.29, and a year ago at this time, about $6.71. So increasing on the rent. Impacting the industrial market, some of the recent projects, Paslin has moved into the former KMAX site, which is at Long Lake and I-75, 139,000 square feet, approximately 90 employees or so into that site. Zhongli, which is a Chinese company, is moving into the old Valiant site that is over in East 14 Mile Road near DeQuinder. They specialize in engine mounts, about 20 employees initially. They expect to grow it from there, and they're putting a lot of work into the inside of that building, and I got a tour of it recently. It looks fantastic and very update, so it'll be great office space, a great addition to the city. NAI up in North Troy, about 15 employees. McClear Group, which does overhead doors over on Rankin Street, about 10 employees. Retail rates, vacancy rates, also extremely low, about 2.4% in the second quarter, compared to 2.9% for a 5-year average, and a year ago about 2.8%. The rents keep going up on the retail side, about $21.57 a square foot in the second quarter, compared to a 5-year average of $18.19. A year ago at this time, about $20.89 a square foot for retail. So we've all heard about Sears. Will be closing their Oakland Mall store. They're in the process of doing their closeouts right now. We expect that closing to occur in the next several weeks, if not months potentially, but definitely throughout the fall. At Home has currently occupied a portion of the former Sears space, about 88,000 square feet. That leaves about 150,000 square feet potential for new use of the Sears building. So the owner is being very open in terms of what the use may be, looking at traditional retail, but also looking at healthcare, educational, fitness uses. I think they're wide open in terms of what they're trying to do for that site. They're very high on that site because it is a heavily trafficked corner. A lot of cars go by I-75, a lot of cars go by on 14 Mile Road and John R. So it's still an important area, and they feel like they're going to be able to backfill this space, but maybe in a different configuration than we've been used to. Not the traditional big box store that we've seen in the past. This closing is going to impact 79 Sears employees. But Troy continues to be a retail destination, and we've been to many openings recently, and we've seen several restaurants opening around town, including Cantoro's, Polka, Station Square, recent times. St. Julian Winery over by Oakland Mall has found that as an excellent spot for them. Under construction right now is Stony River in front of Columbia Center, and we expect an opening very soon for Grand Castor, which is the former Hooters, which is run by the Union Woodshop folks. So that's an excellent restaurant operator. We really look forward to having them there over on Big Beaver and Rochester Road. And you can see the variety of additional retail and restaurants that are opening up or will soon be opening up here in the city. Midtown Apartments has, we've gone through many brownfield projects of late. And these projects recently were, this one, Midtown Apartments, recently approved by the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority in April. City Council approved it on June 4th. $55 million residential development, about 383 units. On the brownfield side, in the planning phase, we are working on a Met Hotel site. That is a potential down the road. It's an important site for the city. It's getting quite blighted out there. We expect demolition hopefully to occur very shortly. We're also looking at potential residential development on another site in South Troy, which would be great for that area as well. Under construction right now is the Regency of Troy project, which is at Axtell and Maple Road, which is a large skilled nursing and assisted living facility, which is the former McGregor manufacturing site, so a great new use for that location. And Somerset Plaza, which had the former Whole Foods in it. You see the buildings going up there on their outlots and the retail right in the corner there. So additional retail will be coming in there. No particular retail has been identified for the old Whole Foods site. It's probably being split up into other tenants. think this map is very telling, and I want to kind of emphasize this. Oakland County put out a map recently showing the foreign investment here in the county. And I want you to take a look at where Troy stands on that. Troy is overwhelmingly one of the major kind of hosts and destinations for foreign companies. There are more than 1,000 foreign-owned companies in Oakland County. About 20% of them, over 200, are located right here in Troy. So we have a great mix of foreign companies, foreign-based companies that are located here. That is because of our engineering, the R&D work that goes on here, the location here in the automotive sector. Troy is a very important location for foreign companies. Right now, I think Germany probably has the most foreign companies that are located here. We have great representation too from Japan, China, and France in particular. So we continue to be that destination, and we continue to want to grow that sector. Very important for the city, which helps provide the market for a lot of the retail activity you're seeing, a lot of housing activity as well because of the choice schools. So it's a nice circle that happens when you start seeing investment going and foreign companies continue to be attracted here to the city. I want to point out too, we're a huge technology center, and Oakland County is as well. So Troy is a part of the Tech 248 network with the county, and we are scheduled to host the September 27th event at 24G, which is the former Thunderbird Lane site, which is a great place for a gathering since they kept 10 of the bowling lanes over there. But Tech 248 is an initiative of Oakland County in partnership with local communities like Troy to bring together the 2,000 technology companies in Oakland County for talent, connectivity, and branding, especially with all the talent shortages in the area. It's very important for that. 58% of Metro Detroit's IT tech companies are located in Oakland County, and many of them are located here in Troy. So we're pleased to have the tech companies. We want to keep supporting them as we go. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Glenn. Good news. Any comments, questions from council? Councilwoman Hoderick.
Can you talk again about the Met brownfield redevelopment a little bit more? That's going to get cleaned up soon, is you're saying?
So the new owners of the Met Hotel site, we've been talking to them about a potential Brownfield Redevelopment Authority assistance. Has not gone before the BRA as of yet. We are working with them on that. It's a site that certainly, with the blight and everything else, we want to make sure we can encourage the demolition of that site and the redevelopment of it. There is no specific use at this point. They're talking to potential users down the road. Yep.
I get so many questions about that. Can I ask a second question? The 888, the residential piece that will be behind, I get a lot of questions about that as well. Would you mind taking a moment to describe what that will be, the numbers, or do we know all of those details yet?
Yeah, in terms of the number of units, it's approximately 200 and, I want to say around 260 units or so, something like that, in that area.
And it's behind?
So it's on the Wilshire side. It is just immediately to the east of the parking structure. So cars, tenants of the residential complex can park in the structure, have direct access into that site.
Okay, thank you.
And then walkable to the retail that's there and the offices there as well.
And then on Big Beaver as well?
Correct.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any prospects for the Somerset Plaza, or it's just in the development of, it's still in this?
There are prospects for the Somerset Plaza.
Anything public that is publicly available, or? I get a lot of questions on what's going there too.
They're finalizing deals with restaurants and with retailers.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilman
Anderson. There's been a lot of activity at the Freshie site at
I-75 and Crooks.
Yeah, so, and it's great to see all the activity going on. They're cleaning up the site and everything. What all is going to be there that we know of?
That is a retail center. So you mentioned Freshie, which is 110, I believe they have signed at this point. The other one would be Starbucks, is what they're looking at that site as well. They're talking to, it's a potential hotel site, and another restaurant potentially as well. So it's retail, hotel, restaurant on that site. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. The only other question sometimes that I get is IHOP. I know they started demolition. I believe the city put a halt to the demolition. Can you, anyone know what the status is at this point?
I'll have to check on that. I'm not 100% sure.
City Attorney Bloom?
I do know that there is an application. We're waiting for them to pay their taxes so that we can split the property. So I know that will be happening probably this week. So it is moving forward.
Thank you. It's good to hear. There's a pile of rubble sitting there, and I think everybody's wondering what's going on there. So,
Right.
Great. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
There are no carryover items this evening or public hearings. I don't see that anyone has signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Therefore, there will be no council or administrator's response. I don't see that we have any postponed items, so we will move to regular business. I-1 board and committee appointments. There are no mayoral appointments, but I will defer to city council appointments. Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one appointment, and that is for the Liquor Advisory Committee for the term expiring January 31st, 2019 for Michael Pendy.
Support.
By Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, supported by Councilman Hamilton, that we appoint Michael Pendy to the Liquor Advisory Committee for the term that expires 1/31/2019. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you to Mr. Pendy for volunteering to be on that committee. I-3, there is no request for closed session this evening, so we will move to consent agenda. Anyone on council wish to pull a consent agenda item this evening? Councilman Henderson.
I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Henderson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Abraham, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet this evening. Further discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Motion passes. If you're here on a consent agenda item this evening, they've all been approved. Next are memorandums and future council agenda items. K2 is a memorandum, K2A, for the Oakland Towers pilot. So please read that and pay attention to that. City Attorney Bloom, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, just briefly, Mayor, thank you. Yes, this is something that we do intend to bring back to you. It does facilitate a pilot project. And if you do have any suggested revisions, please get them to me as quickly as possible, because we will likely have the ordinance as well as a resolution on the next City Council agenda.
Thank you. I think it's important to read that, because there are some significant changes in that and get those to the city attorney ASAP, I would assume. Thank you. Next on the agenda are public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I do see that a number of residents have signed up this evening, so please pay attention to if you intend to speak this evening, to the public comments section of the agenda for the rules and regulations. Each resident will have 3 minutes to speak. You will see the green light come on at the podium and also at the desk in front of me. Once the yellow light comes on, you have 1 minute. Please start wrapping up at that point, and when the red light comes on, that will be when your comments are concluded. First, I'll call on Eric Langer, Troy resident, who wishes to speak this evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council members, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. And I hope you'll embrace and consider the collective concerns that myself and other of my neighbors who are attending tonight have regarding the impending Whispering Park project. My name is Eric Langer. I live on Allison Drive, and I've lived there for 26 years. I wanted to indicate that upon recollecting the discussions of prior meetings pertaining to the Whispering Park project, it wasn't clear to me or other of my neighbors who are here tonight as to why the project engineer felt that a project traffic impact analysis was unnecessary, that consideration could not be given towards additional entrance options into the Parkside condominium project. And our concerns collectively are based upon the accelerated traffic activity that could realistically reach a raw estimate of 300 cars per day, limited access routes for emergency purposes, including the initial construction traffic that'll be coming down our street in particular, impact on general safety concerns, with the most common major problem being traffic speed and safety at intersections with children playing on our streets, seen as the second most important issue. Street access planning, which should function to minimize through traffic, as residential streets should be designed to envision a relatively low and uniform volume of traffic. According to studies conducted by the National Institute of Transportation Engineers' recommended guidelines for subdivision streets, residents of residential neighborhoods are the most aware of traffic problems on their streets. Surveys indicate that 75% of the time it is the local residents who perceive and express concerns about the traffic-related problems. As such, the extent of our residents' dissatisfaction, which has been accentuated at prior meetings, might indeed be indicating a definitive inconsistency between professional practice as manifested in street design, access, and those concerns that are being expressed by the residents of our subdivision, many of whom are presently in the active process of relocating because of this project. As per the report of the Road Commission for Oakland County Complete Streets Review Committee, subdivision streets provide basic and direct access to residential developments and commercial properties. They are characterized by low volume traffic volumes, low speeds at many access points. Recommendations regarding connectivity need to be determined and emphasized early in site plan review process. Connectivity should be encouraged between residential developments, with traffic safety considerations playing an important role in providing connectivity. Most importantly, interconnection between residential developments, commercial developments, hospitals, schools, parks, and other municipalities is to be promoted. Strategically connecting subdivisions with both streets and sidewalks should be considered if it is feasible and, most importantly, desired by the community.
Thank you, Mr. Langer. Thank you. Next, I'll call upon Sandy Langer, Troy resident, who wishes to also speak.
My name is Sandy Langer. I also live on Allison Drive, and that my husband also, and we recruit our neighbors to come because we were not aware of the development that was going to be happening. Being on our, for many years on Allison, we were quite taken aback that the issue at hand is that the traffic study was not going to be conducted on our street. It seems like with the other projects that are going on throughout Troy, they were given the ability to request, or they're performing a traffic study. We were perplexed as to why that's not being done for our subdivision. So we're just requesting and imploring, to you, if that would be done. To continue on to what he was indicating is that the committee reviewed the importance of conducting one subdivision to another via street and or non-motorized connections, while connecting subdivisions is generally the preferred practice. There can be factors such as private versus public streets, paved versus unpaved streets that make connectivity a challenge. Traffic safety considerations also play an important role in providing connectivity. The main reasons for not connecting subdivisions are the potential for increased traffic volumes and or speed on subdivision streets due to cut-through traffic and traffic safety considerations. Again, we just implore that, as a committee, if you would highly urge a traffic study for our subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'll call upon Diana Blighty, Troy resident, who wishes to speak this evening. Good evening.
Hi. I don't have a long, drawn-out speech. I just want to know if anyone here has talked about the deer problem in Troy. I've lived here 50 years, and I'm not about to get Lyme disease or ticks or anything else. Is there anything that's going to be done about all the deer here? And I live in a major area where there's a lot of traffic by Coolidge, Waddles, lots of deer. They're giving birth in my backyard, and I've had it now. So after 50 years, I'm here. I need some advice.
Okay, we understand. If you want to have a seat, and after the council meeting, I'm sure someone from staff would speak to you about the issue.
Okay.
Thank you. Marilyn Kwolek. Good evening.
Good evening. I came this evening because I thought possibly you would be discussing the marijuana issue. I'm very much against it. I don't want to see any more facilities opened here. I don't want to see them coming in to open bigger places to make profits. We have a wonderful city here. I've lived here almost 42 years, raised our children here, go to church here. The city's been run beautifully. We've been fortunate to have all you great people up here doing a fantastic job. But I agree with you when you voted it down. And when they put it on, when they bring these petitions out, they should be more honest with people what they are, what they want you to sign. And again, I commend you for voting it down. I'm against it because we got a wonderful city, a safe city, a city that we're proud of, and we can raise our children and our grandchildren here. And I don't want to see crime, and we already have a drug problem. And sometimes you think this is going to be a problem solver, and sometimes this turns into a bigger disaster. Again, thank you, and thank you for doing a great job.
Thank you. Next, I'll call upon Regina Cable, Troy resident, who wishes to speak. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Slater. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and speak before the council. I am Regina Cable, and I have been a Troy resident for 34 years. I have lived on Allison Drive, and we've raised our 3 children in Troy. And I am here to speak about the Whispering Park development as well. The notifications, and just to kind of bring the council up to speed, we have property that adjoins directly to the Whispering Park. That'll be in our backyard. So we were notified of the meetings with the developer and with the planning commission, and also invited to come to the city council meeting. And I was unaware that other members of our subdivision, which is a single street, Allison Drive, were not afforded that same notification of or at least the appearance that they were not included. So it appears to the council, I think it appears to the council that we are all coming here at the 11th hour and trying to ask for something after decisions have been made. And I would like to just express my opinion that we are not coming here at the 11th hour, that when we were invited to the meetings, I spoke at the Planning Commission. I expressed my concerns about the road and the concern about what happens when all of the construction trucks come down Allison Drive, which is what we were told was going to happen. 100% of the construction trucks down Allison Drive for 3 years. That doesn't seem to be really fair. That's a quality of life issue for 3 years. And then to find out that there's going to be 50 homes with at least 2 cars. Those homes would have to go to work, go to the market and things, and that they would be exiting on Allison Drive and onto Lila. And I expressed my concern again about the lack of a traffic study. I know when it came to the council for the final approval that was brought up by Councilman Pennington, and we were told that it wasn't necessary. And I'd like to know what the threshold is. When you're talking about 200 to 300 cars a day additional on a road, what is the threshold for asking for a traffic study? So that's my concern. It's a quality of life issue. It's a quality of life for those 3 years that we will be having those construction trucks down our street. I'd love to see the construction trucks do one way in the morning, come down Allison Drive in the morning, and then exit on Prentice in the afternoon, because there's a road that kind of doglegs. I'd also like to invite council to drive over there and see what we're talking about. Come on down Allison Drive, come on down Prentice, come on down Lila. See where these two roads are. You're seeing it on a chart and a graph, and that's what I'd like you to see, the real picture.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I'll call upon Beatrice Evelyn, Troy resident who wishes to speak. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me and letting me speak. I also have lived on Allison with our family for 34 years, raised our 2 daughters there. My question is, and I don't really see that, this is only the second time I've ever been to one of these meetings, but so I'm not really versed in how to do it or anything, but I don't really see the planning committee people here that maybe who gave this idea that they could continue on with the construction. I question, where do they live in Troy, the planning committee? I understand they may be volunteers, which is usually a thankless job, but you know, we appreciate that they're willing to volunteer if that's how it is. But I just wondered, do they live in Troy, and do they live east of Rochester Road or west of Rochester Road? And the council, I assume you all live in Troy. Do you live east or west of Rochester Road? It seems like the east side we get a lot of things that are more undesirable, like that lovely parking structure we've got there, 3 levels it looks like, just south of Waddles. Or that lovely pig sign, or it's not really a pig sign, it's a billboard that flashes different advertisements or whatever right there across to the pork restaurant. I guess that's why I called it the pig sign. But we really need some more quality things on the east side. I don't know how many of those type of things are on your west side, but on the east side it doesn't look very good. You come down Rochester Road and you see this huge building and it's a storage unit. There's just not a lot of nice things. Or we have had lucky enough to have Hooters twice on the east side. That isn't very desirable for a family unit, I don't think. So I'm kind of concerned about what we're headed for our side. I don't know that there's any Hooters on the west side, but we've had 2 and 1 very close to a residential area, which I don't know why that was ever approved. So that's mainly my question, is that we pay a little more attention to what we're putting on near neighborhoods and where children are growing. And I have never called the police on anything, except for just this couple weeks ago, there was someone doing some work on a home that's for lease. And the gentleman, he was a young man, so I considered that in my thoughts. But he came down, it must have been 40, 45 miles an hour down Allison, took a U-turn quick into this driveway, and my grandkids were out there getting into the car. And I called over and I said, maybe you should slow that buggy down a little bit. And he said, I don't have to and I'm not going to. It's only the start of it, I think, with all the traffic that's going to come.
Thank you. Aaron Green, Troy resident, wishes to speak this evening.
Good evening. Hi, Council. I wanted to speak on the primaries that occurred last week. I worked as an election inspector on that, and I really enjoyed it. It was a wonderful experience, and I plan to do it again. but there were some unfortunate things that occurred, and I would like to note, first and foremost, that I saw firsthand how excellent a job the city clerk and her staff did, and others who work for the city who stayed rather late that night, and I don't know how far into the morning, working both just as they normally would and due to fallout from the situation resulting from the ballot shortage, likely caused by the lack of listening to previous reports by city clerks, by the county clerk. So that's, I can't commend the staff enough. You did a wonderful job, and always do. But I did also want to mention, I encountered a situation where one of the candidates, as it happens, it was Abdul El Sayed. One of his, or a couple of people from his campaign ran a voter registration drive, and as far as I can tell, it went very well. They ran it in 2 locations, I think, at Troy Athens and Troy High, and unfortunately, it appears that the exact details are uncertain, but either the registrations were lost in the mail or were never properly submitted, the result of which was that not my very first, but one of my first experiences as an inspector was that I encountered a mother and her daughter. And her mother came to vote with her daughter for the very first time, and her daughter is about to go to North Carolina for college, and she was very excited to vote, and her mother was very excited to have her there. And we got through the ballot book and the poll book, and discovered that the daughter was not registered. And when I called the city, discovered that she was one of many students who was going to be disenfranchised this election, and one of a smaller number, but many students who would likely then be disenfranchised this fall as well, because you need to vote in person for the first election. So that's a very unfortunate thing that has occurred, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of it. To that point, I actually contacted Sayed himself and asked what his thoughts were, if he was aware of it and what was going on. His brief response was simply, "I am so sorry to hear about this. It's the first I'm hearing about it. That is devastating. I am not sure what happened. As we submitted these forms directly, I will look into the matter."
Thank you. Thank you. Dawn Safarian?
Yes.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I am also a resident of Troy who lives on Allison. I'm here in regards to the Whispering Park condominium traffic issue. I've lived on Allison for 9 years, in Troy about 17, 18 years now. Wonderful city, love it. Moved here from West Bloomfield, which is great. I hated that place. But let's get down to business. See, the problem is we have the park right across the street, JC Park. Lots of kids come out from there. Personally, my children are older. My son just graduated from Athens. My other son is going to be a senior this year coming up, so I'm not really concerned about my children. It's more for the children in our community, on our street. So this traffic problem is going to cause issues for all those kids that are playing. You always see them coming out. Their parents park on Allison sometimes when there isn't any more parking at the park. So those kids come out to their parents' cars sometimes. If they need something, they grab water. I mean, I sit outside and see these children, coming out. We also have both bus stops right on the corner of Allison and Lila. So both buses stop there. So with these people coming in for construction, that's going to cause a big issue for, if they're going to start at 7 a.m., some of those buses come around 7:10. So that's another problem that needs to be looked into, I think. And I mean, as it is, for some odd reason, I don't know why, but Lila goes back quite a few streets. And the people that live all the way down at the end of the street, when they want to go east on Long Lake, they happen to come to Allison and make that right turn to go to Long Lake. I always wonder why they don't take Prentice, which is the street before Allison, they never seem to turn on that. As it is, we get that traffic, but on top of that, now we're going to get all this traffic for construction, and then like my neighbor Regina said, the 100 people, amount of cars and stuff that we're going to have additional, that's going to cause major issues for us. So I would really appreciate if you guys consider looking into it. And, we did get a petition also, if you want to take a look at this. These are the people that live on Allison that would like something to be done with this construction issue. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'll call upon Deepak Gehlot. I hope I didn't mess it up too bad.
No, that's fine. My name is Deepak Gehlot, and I'm also a resident living on Allison Drive. There's nothing new to be said. All my, fellow residents have already raised their concerns. I just want to say that, I have full confidence in you guys and city planners. If they resolve to look into this and solve this, we'll find a solution. So I just hope that, you look into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes those that have signed up for public comment on items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. Next is an opportunity for council or city management to respond to council comments. Councilman Henderson.
I just want to address one thing, and that's just to clear up where city council members live and planning commissioners live. Planning commissioners have to live in the city of Troy, and so do city council members, and we're all at large, so we don't have specific districts that we live in. Each and every one of us is spread across the city. Honestly, I don't know where everybody's address is here on city council, but I know that we represent a large variety of areas in the city of Troy. I also have grandkids that live here, not in my section of town, so I have to be confident that any decisions I make, impact them as well. So know that whenever we look at any individual topic, it takes all the city into consideration. And also, certain things can be built by right. Somebody owns a piece of property, they can build things without having any kind of input from city council. It's just the right that they have as property owners to build that. And the planning commission has to abide by laws. And if they approve something that's not lawful, then that's where we open up to a lot of lawsuits. So there's a lot of consideration in every plan that goes in, and I'm sure you've sat in on planning commission meetings, and so you know the deliberation that goes into it. So I just wanted to kind of clear up our role in the process.
Thank you. Councilman Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for coming this evening. I want to speak about the election stuff a little later during a report, but with regard to the Whispering Park and Allison Drive residents, I can see your frustration, and I understand it. I actually was fairly recently walking around that neighborhood during the campaign, and as I walked Allison Drive, I thought, oh, this is very different than it looks on a chartograph, like you said. I absolutely agree with you on that, and I have done my best to try to walk the neighborhoods for different projects at times. My question kind of for city management is, I don't recall off the top of my head what the threshold is for a traffic report, traffic study, and if somebody could answer that for me as to why this was not needed here, or what the benefits would be to do it if possible. If you could, Mr. Hooter, I figured he'd be the best one, but if that could be answered, I think that would help a little bit.
I think we'll call on Mr. Miller first, and he'll make a decision who speaks.
Council and Mayor and Council, I just wanted to provide some background on what's actually happening with this. This Whispering Park is a conditional rezoning, and the conditional rezoning requires a public hearing both at the Planning Commission and City Council. And under the Zoning Enabling Act, there are standards for the public hearing notices. We've met all those standards. This has been approved by City Council. It is in final engineering. Final engineering now, and that means it's getting close to being built. We have set up a meeting with the residents for Friday because of some vacations and stuff. It took us a couple weeks to get it. We're going to have planning director, city engineer, and representatives from OHM, our traffic engineering consultants, at that meeting and meet with the residents on Friday morning. And what I really foresee is that what we should do is have that meeting and then respond back to you in a report, which then, because I would like to have OHM respond because they're our traffic consultants, and to lay out what those standards are on when we do a traffic study.
Did you wish Mr. Hootery to speak, or are you all set with that?
Bill, you can speak, but I think you would, go ahead. Are you prepared? You can speak.
I have a follow-up then.
Go ahead.
Proper procedure is for Mr. Miller to decide who speaks.
I would like the city engineer to speak, just so council has to understand that we're going to write a report with all of our findings.
Thank you.
Mayor and council. Yeah, I was going to lead with that we are going to meet Friday. We are going to have our traffic consultant. When these sites come in, one of the things I do is I have our traffic consultant look at them for purposes of, is a traffic study required? One of the things they look at typically, and we've talked about this before, is peak hour trips, not total number of trips in a day. So typically the threshold's 100 new trips during a peak hour. A development like this with 50 units, you're talking 30, 35 new trips in a peak hour. Those are spread out over 60 minutes. So it's not everybody 50 units, there's not 50 cars that everybody's leaving at the same time, arriving at the same time. So those are kind of the considerations that we look at. There's several new subdivisions like this sold off many parcels recently. They've all been 30, 40, 50 units, and they've not required a traffic study. This one in particular has 2 stub streets that are new connections, so that they're tying into those. It's got multiple access points to Long Lake. So there are a lot of things that were looked at, and OHM did provide us with a letter. They provided it to Brent Savanant, Planning Director, for his information when Planning Commission reviewed it. So it's not that it hasn't been looked at, but it was, when I talked with our traffic consultant, it's not a site that would require or reach the level of a traffic study. So, and that would be something we would discuss more with the residents on Friday.
Understand. Councilman Baker, you had a follow-up?
No, that answered my question. I was looking for just more of a general up front. It's great that you're meeting with the residents, and I'm assuming they've all been invited and there's no notice issues like before. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you. What's the typical cost of a traffic study?
Depends on the level.
Yeah, it really is project specific. And we ourselves don't do the study. We review it. And I use our consultant OHM kind of as a third party. I mean, they're professional traffic engineers. There's actually a designation. I'm a PE. They are PEs, PTOE, professional traffic operations engineers. So they've got a higher level of kind of professional review. And so we get just on the review side. So the developer is typically responsible for providing the actual traffic study, and then we review it on our end. And I provide that review from our consultant to Planning Commission if indeed a traffic study is done. And in this case, there was just kind of a one-page memo that was provided, just kind of summarizing the trips and generation, that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson?
Yeah, just 2 points that have come up in conversations. I want to talk about stub streets for a second and by right versus cluster. The cluster ordinance was developed so that we could put better projects that have bigger green spaces and buffers between subdivisions. And so this particular development could have been done by right with maybe a few less units, but since it came to us with the cluster ordinance, we were able to put a better project together because of all the green space and some of the buffering areas that are required under the cluster ordinance. The other thing I want to talk about is stub streets, because people often forget about this. If you buy in an area and there are these little short streets that dead end to nowhere and have barricades, in the master plan, those are areas that we knew decades ago that there was probably going to be a development going on beyond that. And we run into this conversation all the time whenever there's a new development that comes along that, hey, this is such a nice dead-end secluded area, but the intention in the future has always been to put something beyond those barricades at the end of a stub street. So those we have to understand, and we have to deal with those in the future.
Councilman Pennington.
Ms. Cable and I are friends, and Mr. Langer and I have talked a couple times about this issue. And so, if you guys have any questions after the meeting, we can, before the Friday meeting, we can meet with everyone and kind of allay your concerns a little bit ahead of time.
Your sign is still there.
I'm sorry, it's not an exchange between council and residents at this point. Councilwoman Hoderick?
I guess what we can leave from you from the table on record is we hear you. Staff is listening to you. I'm really glad to hear that the meeting is occurring. As Councilman Henderson said, there are things people can do with the property and with developments that are by right. I felt personally the trade-off about the additional buffers in terms of additional space through the cluster development was a bonus. I did walk those streets. I did go look. I stand in the presence of where these decisions are being made and projects are coming in, and I feel your pain. I do. I guess I want you to understand, I don't think there's a person at this table who isn't understanding what you're saying, hearing your concerns. I look forward to the report back from the meeting. Let's continue the dialogue, and thank you for the constructive dialogue, for a spirit of working with us, and I appreciate you and the input you're giving to us. We're hearing you, and if there's things we can do, it will get discovered. We are restricted by ordinances and laws, and these properties. It's going on all around the city, and you're not the only neighborhood experiencing a property that's been sold and then a development that's happening, and it's the evolution of the city, and it's tough. There are trade-offs we're making. So thank you for coming to talk to us and sharing your concerns. I know we're all listening and hearing them, and it will go through the process now in this meeting with truly expert folks looking at it. So that's the best we can do from the table here tonight, and we look forward to the report from the city.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe it was Ms. Cable that raised the concern that perhaps not all residents on Allison Drive were notified of the development or some of the meetings that were going on, and I was wondering if city management could comment on who might have been notified. Would it have been all the residents on Allison, or just certain residents abutting the property?
All properties within 300 feet of the border of the subject property.
Thank you.
We'll clarify that in the report and show exactly which ones were notified.
Okay, thank you.
There also was a sign located at each stub stroke.
Thank you. Any other comments from council or administration? Just my 2 cents. I concur with Councilwoman Hoderick that at this point it's best to wait for the report. We all share the pain of a development that abuts the residential areas, but sometimes it's out of our control. But I look forward to the report also. Go ahead.
There was a resident that commented about the deer.
Oh, yeah. I asked the staff would just meet with them after.
Yeah, we can, and we hear you, and share your pain on that one as well. Hang in there, and we'll talk with you more after the meeting.
I share your pain. They've eaten every flower in my yard, and so do I. I hear you. But they have as much right to my flowers, I guess, as I do. That's okay. Somebody will speak to you. Thank you. Any other Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
I believe it was Ms. Kwolek, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, who expressed concerns about the medical marijuana facilities and the petition. And I just wanted to comment, there is litigation against the city for the ordinance that we passed recently. So you won't be hearing us speak much at the table about that particular topic for that reason. So I wanted to acknowledge that we heard you, but there are legal matters that really it would be unwise for us to speak at length. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council or administration? Thank you. Next on the agenda are council referrals. There are none this evening. So that takes us to council comments. Any other comments from council at this point? Next on the agenda are reports. Anyone on council wish to speak regarding a report that was on the agenda? Councilman Hamilton.
Just like to thank Sergeant Novak for his report on our new traffic safety unit in the city. It was authorized for this fiscal year beginning July 1st, and the officers commenced their duties on July 9th. And I want to commend all of them and Sergeant Novak because he's directly talked to residents that have called into the city with different complaints relating to traffic or other police-related issues, and he's directly contacted residents that have done this. And this new traffic safety unit allows our police to respond to requests at a much more personal level, and they've done an amazing job with this. In just 17 days, they've already issued 700 citations and warnings, and I thank all of council for supporting this. I think this is going to do so much good for our city, so thank you to our police for doing this.
Thank you. Councilman Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to talk about P2B, which is the Big Beaver Shuttle quarterly update. I guess, I read it and it shows an increase in ridership, but I'd like to ask city management again, and I'm not sure, and fellow council members as well, I'm not sure I'm perfectly aware of what our benchmarks for success are with this program and what the plan continues to be. We met about a year ago and talked about things. I remember it well. I was alone on many of those issues, but I hear a lot, especially over the past few weeks, about the trolley and the shuttle, and I don't know what our overall goal is moving forward. And I think that we are doing a disservice to not have something better stated. There's still no advertising revenue, as I understand, which was something that was discussed with us when we first started the program. I don't know that it's working as we had planned, and I want to make sure someone is still thinking about what we're going to do with it moving forward. Mr. Miller, I don't know if there's another report that could be made, or if there's some. I don't want to ask for a study session. I don't think it's that necessarily, but again, when this was first started, it was my understanding that it was going to be a joint project with the hotels and restaurants and businesses that would be interested in advertising on it, and that was going to offset the city cost. That hasn't materialized. At a study session, I heard, well, it's just a public service, so never mind. I don't agree with that. I think that the community doesn't agree with that idea. I just don't know what we need as council members to say, okay, this is working or this isn't working, and what that's going to be. We get quarterly reports, which I appreciate, but they just show clicks, theoretically. It doesn't give any other information as to what we're really looking for with that. So I'd be disappointed if we went by another quarter, got another report that says, okay, these are the clicks. I don't know if I necessarily know what those mean and what that's going to mean for the project as a whole. So I just wanted to get that out there. I don't know if you have any comments on that specifically. We can certainly talk about it in the future. But Hillary Clinton and I rode that trolley a couple months ago. It's a joke, and we were the only two on that bus. So that's my concern. I have friends who've taken it recently, and it's still not heavily used in this community. And I don't know what we're going to have to. I guess I just don't know the benchmarks for what we're looking for, and when we're going to say, okay, enough is enough, or great, let's keep moving forward. That's that one. I have another report to talk about too, if you'd like, or I don't know if Mr. Miller has anything to say about that.
Mayor and Council?
Is there a response, Mr.
Yes,
Miller? Okay.
yes, there is.
Thank you.
And I would like the opportunity when I'm done, Kurt Bobasik to chime in. To my knowledge, there were no specific benchmarks identified for this project. And I would like Kurt to to verify that. And also I'd like Kurt Bovensteep to announce a significant occurrence that happened with SMART. The trolleys were ordered. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It was my impression in the study session that there was no benchmark for success for this, that it was a service to the community. We have approached businesses to advertise. There is a little bit of a delay with that because we did order new buses and a new trolley, and those Robert Kramer just confirmed today that the buses are on their way and the trolley has been confirmed for order, so we should see that fall of 2019. It takes that long to manufacture one of these trolleys. So with that, wrapping a bus or advertising on this bus, the lease agreement requires us to go through SMART and get approval to do that advertisement, which has been a little bit of a problem when going to vendors and asking if they want to, advertise. Is that okay? Thank you for your information. Now we have to get SMART's approval, and we have been successful with coupons and that type of advertising to pass out to, but not anything promotion-wise on the bus. The budget that we proposed to City Council did not include any projected revenue in the last budget session that we just did. So it was a complete expenditure because we knew we were going to have the same difficulties of getting the revenue that we once originally thought we were able to get.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson?
Since you're there, Kurt. Two questions I have. One just popped up. When we're talking about advertising, yeah, an outside wrap would be really cool, and somebody would spend big bucks to do that probably. But what about like inside the bus? Aren't there, I've been on buses before, shuttles or whatnot, where they have just a little thing, Eat at Joe's on there. I mean, is there no value? Is there no way to do those? And then the follow-up question to that is, I think when we talked to SMART, he was standing at the podium, and we were talking about some sort of an app and means of being able to really follow who's riding and how many riders and that kind of thing. And I don't know that we have that, or do we?
We do not have an app. In regards to the advertisements inside the bus, it still would follow the same criteria where SMART would have to approve any advertisements, even on the inside of the bus. It's been our experience talking with the different hospitality communities, or businesses on the corridor, that coupons are okay, that entices someone. They're not convinced that spending the advertising dollars, that would cause anyone to go to their establishment, because they would have to actually get on the bus to see the establishment, or finding as most riders are getting on the shuttle and already know their destination. They know where they want to go. In regards to the second question, which was
the app.
The app. SMART has an app. In our last discussions when we were talking Medigo, we brought that up again, that it would be very convenient if we could piggyback on SMART's app. We looked at it again. SMART's a very, very thorough organization, and they don't act very fast, and we're seeing that with the buses. Not to say that it won't happen, it's just things take a lot of time with this organization.
Councilman Baker.
Thank you. We are getting a trolley, or was it just new buses? Because I thought we weren't getting a trolley for a while. Maybe I misunderstood.
The original idea when the project started was that all of the vehicles would be a trolley type. And then we determined that known specifically that's a good piece to have on the corridor, but the expense of the drivers and then getting the drivers, because it takes a different type of license, in the end we will have one trolley vehicle, and then we will have 3 shuttle buses.
I recall that. I don't know what to do to put an end to this. Councilman Baker, you have something else?
No, we want to put an end to it. Good comment, Mayor. No, that's not what I'm going to say. I do think, though, the fact that our city manager and Mr. Bowman seems to say there are no benchmarks for success. We're operating a shuttle now with no idea what our intended goal and long-term goals are. So I think we do need to look at what those benchmarks for success should be. And I do recall from the study session there was a question about riders, and it's not about dollars and cents, but it should be about dollars and cents when they're tax dollars and cents. And it's great that SMART finally ordered those buses, but it'll be another year now. We just committed something for another year, another $220,000, with no plan for what success actually looks like. So I don't know how we achieve that as a body, but I think we should.
Councilwoman Hoderick.
I think what we're tangled up in is, as we're having this discussion and trying to take advantage of great potential on Big Beaver to do this with the connection to our transit center, to the fast SMART bus routes that are now in existence coming out of Troy, going downtown. We're watching a regional transit effort go in fits and starts and in lurches. And you're asking the right questions, Councilman Baker. I understand why you're asking them. I also think that this is an example of why a good strategic RTA focused on making something happen on a regional basis is critical. We are a community that can stand to really benefit from that. I think the vote for SMART in Oakland County was 60-some% support. So you have a SMART organization that's also laboring under, were the counties going to vote to support it going forward? So there's a limbo that's been going on as we've tried to launch this. I guess in hindsight, we could have said we should have held off. Maybe we could have launched at a different time or a better time. The fact that these numbers are showing increases in ridership is directionally the right thing. If we were seeing something different, I think that would tell us we need to totally reframe this discussion. I think we need to hang on to see the potential of the linkages we can have with the fast SMART bus lines that are in existence. I've taken them a couple times, taken them all the way to the airport. I've taken it down to the DIA. It's a great alternative. It's new, and it's going to be tender. It's not going to take off overnight on Big Beaver or even on the regional basis. It's going to take time for this area to get back on board. We're seeing the numbers go directionally the right way, and I think being patient with this process is what's in order at this point. I see that you've jiggered the times. It's clear you're watching what the usage is and when the best benefit is. This is what we're caught in, is this vague time frame, this doldrum we're in as something could take off. And if it does take off, we will be in position to take advantage of it. Our restaurants will be in position, our businesses. Many of the new businesses that open here talk to us about the fact that transit and shuttles can be a benefit. So I like the idea that we're positioning for the future. Is it the numbers I want to see right now? Probably not. Is it directionally the right way? Yes. So this is the yin and the yang of it at this point. And that's what we're tangled up in. And thanks for continuing to work it through. And I'm glad there's at least one trolley. I wish it was 4. But I think we need to hang in with it and give it that chance, or we will have wasted our tax dollars.
Councilman Henderson.
One last thing. I don't know that I heard necessarily an answer on the interior advertising. So are we not interested in doing that? Are the businesses not interested in doing that? Is SMART not interested in doing that? Is it, I know it's not we're not gonna generate $200,000 a year in advertising inside the buses, but it would be nice to show some sort of corporate, maybe partnering on the inside of these things. Do we not see that as a viable situation?
Well,
so I'm Granite City, right? And I have a sign on there, and the guy gets on at the hotel, wants to go out to lunch, and he's going somewhere else and sees, oh, I didn't know they had a Granite City here. I mean, it certainly, there seems to me to be benefit to that. But I'm not hearing anything that we're embracing that or considering it or going out and recruiting that sort of business at all.
Well, we certainly would appreciate the revenue, no question with that. We would embrace the idea. when this project started, it was, the Department of Public Works took on a new division, the Transportation Division, and we're running this with current staff. And we use a next assistant to go out and assist us, someone who's going to school for marketing to go out and assist us in the field and market these. The response from the restaurants have been, there's been more interest in producing coupons and enticing people to come to their establishment based on coupons than an actual advertisement in the bus. We can certainly start asking that question, and we have the proof to show that the coupons are working. So, maybe the restaurants would be interested in an advertisement and putting some dollars to that advertisement, knowing that the coupons work, knowing that our ridership is going up. We certainly can try that again. But again, the interest was more in a subdued kind of getting them in the front door with the coupons to begin.
I would think Art Tapuzian would be a good resource for that. I mean, if anybody can bend arms and influence people, Art certainly could help step to the plate. I mean, it was pushed through or pushed towards us by the Hospitality Committee, which is an arm of the chamber. So it seems to me that'd be a perfect tie-in. But thanks.
Yep.
Just one last comment. I have a lot of notes, and I am going to put my own notes together because some council members failed to remember some things that have been said. And I'm going to take a more active role in this myself. And every restaurant, hotel that I speak to speaks very highly of this. It's a service that's provided to our restaurant, hotel corridor. We're trying to make the corridor more walkable. And I said, what do we need to do to put an end to this discussion? I'm going to be working very hard in the next few weeks, and I'm going to, hopefully the staff can assist me, and we're going to get a report out, and we're going to have a definite direction as to where we're going to go with this. Okay? Thank you, Kurt. Thanks for all you do to promote this and make it successful. Any other comments on the reports? Mayor Pro Tem Abraham.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to call attention to P2H and P2J. So P2H is the low water pressure alert. So I wanted to call attention to that because if you lived on the west side of the city on the weekend of August 3rd, you might have gotten notified via the news or a tweet, etc., that we're experiencing some low water pressure due to a failed valve. And I want to give kudos to the Department of Public Works for taking care of that situation in record time. I think it happened on a Friday, and the estimate was that Monday things would be back to normal. And I think you had the valve replaced by Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. And during that entire weekend, even though there was a low water pressure alert, no one had to go under a boil water advisory. So we thank the DPW staff. It's never easy to deal with an emergency over the weekend, but you handled it beautifully and brilliantly. So thank you. And then P2J, which is the report on the primary elections, I want to commend our city clerk and the clerk's office and the 200 or 300 volunteers, or I suppose they were paid, so they're technically not volunteers, but people who volunteered their time to support their civic duty and help residents make their voices heard on a local, state, and national level. We all know that the election, the primary, didn't go quite as smoothly as we would have wanted to, and despite best efforts, there were some problems. And the reason I'm bringing attention to it is because I think the clerk's office handled things so wonderfully under very difficult circumstances, and it was not easy, and you were probably up until the wee hours of the morning and basically got to bed, and about an hour later the alarm went off so you could report to work the next morning and again continue to deal with a very difficult situation. So I want to thank the clerk's office for handling this with fortitude, integrity, and professionalism. Thank you.
Councilman Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. It's also about P2J. And Mr. Green spoke a little bit about the issue with the teenagers that register, and that is very unfortunate and very troubling, and hopefully we can resolve all of that. And I know the answer to this, Ms. Dixon, but just so everyone's clear, anybody who did vote on Tuesday, regardless of the ballot they were given, those votes will be counted, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Councilmember. Any ballot that got deposited into the auxiliary bin at any precinct will be counted at the Board of Canvassers, and I will personally be there to make sure that happens.
Thank you. Let me echo Mayor Pro Tem Abraham's accolades. I think I even bothered the city clerk at some point during the evening, and I know you do a great job. Thanks for all you do, and your staff.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Hoderick.
Just echoing accolades, thank you. So that you understand, in case you haven't read the agenda in detail, there's a report section which happens to be extremely rich on this agenda. Our city staff has been working hard this summer, and you can see it in the reports. From the very thorough memo about the low water pressure alert and the valve that had to be replaced, and the teamwork that you see between DPW, fire, police, everybody involved that weekend, doing back handsprings. And when you read that memo, if all you do is read that memo, it gives you an appreciation for what your municipal employees do for you on a day-to-day basis, and the institutional memory that is there with people that are professionals in this business. And when you're talking about water, water not only to drink and cook and do laundry with, but if there's a fire, to be able to fight the fire, and they were looking at that. All of these things are the things that they're thinking about and making sure get delivered to us, and you really see it in that memo. Then we have the city clerk and the team here that they were already looking cross-eyed during absentee season when I came to vote at the counter here, and many thanks to all those that did work as election inspectors. And I know city clerk, she has a thorough report of what she was doing, what they were anticipating, what they tried to be prepared for in spite of best efforts. So the good news is it won't happen in November, because the law requires in November that we have a ballot for every registered voter. So if anyone has fears of that, and I know you'll be taking the learnings to the county clerk, so that we can have improvement in the primary going forward. So thank you for that. And just in general, if you have a chance to look at the reports in the agenda, everything from response times of our EMS are in there, the shuttle data. There are a lot of fantastic reports, thank you letters, and it gives you a lot of insight into the business of the city. I say this partly for the folks that are here from the neighborhood. You may not have even paid attention to some of these other things, and hopefully it's an insight into the business of the city that you can take with you as well. Thank you to staff for all the great work you've been doing this summer. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments on the reports? Next are comments on items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy, not residents of Troy, and not from Troy businesses. I'll call upon Jeffrey Schroeder, who wishes to speak, I guess, on Q1, which is what we're speaking on.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Jeffrey Schroeder. I believe this was an agenda item. I am the attorney for People for a Responsible Troy, the ballot question committee, and you did receive something that I found online late this afternoon that is considered a late addition to the agenda. And actually, as an update, it hasn't been announced here at the meeting, the city clerk determined that there were not enough sufficient signatures for this proposed charter amendment to get on the ballot. Excuse me. And to that end, I did contact the city clerk's office via email this afternoon as a representative of this ballot committee and request copies of the determination by the city clerk, and the city clerk said, well, you have to FOIA that. And I've looked at Michigan election law, and it says that if there's a review of the sufficiency or insufficiency of the petitions, that they shall be immediately available to any person aggrieved. So that would mean any person who is for or against the proposal. So if this proposal had enough signatures, maybe there's a resident here that would want to challenge it, it should be immediately available to those residents. And this is the case with any ballot or petition that's filed with the state, the county, or any local unit of government. They are immediately available. With FOIA, you can take a 10-day extension on top of the initial 5-day response period, and it could take 3 weeks. As you know, with the election season coming up, there's a tight timeline as to whether or not something can make it on the ballot. And so I'm just here to request the council's assistance in trying to get Michigan election law complied with and get this immediately into the hands of my client, People for Responsible Troy, so they can determine what their next steps are. To see, there's a lot of signatures that were disqualified, so that we can see what happened, what the basis was for it. Again, a FOIA, I mean, that takes a lot of time. So my request is asking the council to direct the city clerk's office or whoever is holding these determinations to get it in our hands so we can start doing our work to see what happened. And again, that's Michigan election law. FOIA is superseded in this case. So I do appreciate your assistance with this, but whether you're for this or against it shouldn't matter. The process needs to be followed, and the process says we are entitled to this immediately. In fact, I'll stay here tonight if someone's available to walk me down the hall to get these. I appreciate your listening to me and your assistance. Thanks.
Thank you. On the agenda, there's no opportunity for response on this comment section. I'm going to ask to waive the rules so that we could get a response on this question this evening.
Support.
Moved by the chair and supported by Councilman Pennington that we waive the rules and allow comment from city administration, city attorney in regards to this issue this evening. Any discussion on that? The vote on that?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
Yes.
Motion passes. If I could ask the city attorney if you have an answer to that question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just as I was walking in tonight before the meeting, I was informed that that was a request and actually a demand. And so I did some brief research, and Your Honor, there's nothing that says that it can't be accomplished through FOIA, and so the two are consistent. Obviously, we can't take the full amount of time that is allowed under FOIA because there is a requirement that it be provided as quickly as possible. I believe that the city clerk is already working on that. I believe that she is going to expedite it, knowing that this is something that does have to be provided as timely as possible. And I believe that she probably can accomplish that tomorrow.
That's correct. I would be able to provide Mr. Schroeder the file. If he wished it in a PDF, I could send that to him at no charge almost immediately upon receiving his FOIA request. If he wants physical copies of it, there would be a charge for the paper. And again, that could be accomplished in a very short time after receiving the request.
Thank you. So that could be done tomorrow, ASAP. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. There is no closed session request this evening, so thank you for coming this evening. We are adjourned.